Hello and welcome to WION World is One. I'm Kanishka Sarkar. Tensions in West Asia continue to escalate. Trump has indicated that the war with Iran could last a month or longer. Meanwhile, the senior commander of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has declared the Strait of Hormuz effectively closed. He has threatened to attack vessels, saying they will not allow a single drop of oil to leave the region, which would drive oil prices as high as $200 in the coming days. So what does this mean for India? For petrol prices, cooking gas, CNG, inflation and strategic reserves? The Strait of Hormuz, the 33-kilometer wide waterway, handles a massive global share in oil trade and nearly 50% of India's crude oil and about 60% of its LNG imports that pass through it. Brent crude is already hovering near $80 per barrel. That's up about 8% in 3 days. So today, we're asking the most important question. What does this mean for household monthly budgets in India? To discuss this, we are joined by Dr. Suyash Bhatt, Director at AFTI, that is Academy for Finance, Technology and Innovation. He's an energy markets expert. Dr. Bhatt, thank you so much for speaking with us. Let's start with the question that viewers really care about. If this crisis continues beyond a month, like Trump says, what will an average Indian household feel first? Petrol price hike, LPG cylinder hike, or higher CNG fares?
So, good afternoon, Kanishka. I think if it touches 200, I think there would be havoc in the market. But let me give you context. I think, as you mentioned, 50% of Indian crude is imported from Strait of Hormuz, and also globally 40% of oil flows through this route. And it's not about blockade more so, but even in the recent time, in last 2 to 3 days, the insurance companies have said that the war clause has been removed. So just in case if an event happens to any of these ships, they are no longer covered under insurance. So even from that perspective, most of the carriers have been instructed to stay put at the location where they are, because nobody wants to take that risk. So knowing this and knowing that there would be a huge supply constraint in the market, you can see in the global prices of crude, it has gone up by almost $20. Coming to India, from an Indian perspective, I think since WION is based in Delhi, let me take an example of Delhi. If 97 to 98 is the price of gasoline or petrol, right, close to 59% is the actual cost. So. Right. Around 57 rupees would be the actual price of crude. Rest all is taxes. So from a government perspective, up to almost $100, if the prices go, I think government can still, absorb this change which happens. But if we talk about maybe $100 or $150, I think then there would be a huge impact in the prices. The domestic prices at the ground level. Also, in a recent RBI study, they mentioned that for every dollar change in price of crude oil, right, there would be a CPI inflation of close to 20 basis points. So, right, that's also something which is worrying. So, prices right, would be impacted.
Okay, so that's about the macro impact. But Dr. Bhatt, just given that nearly 80 to 85% of India's LPG is also imported and much of it comes through the Strait of Hormuz, is LPG actually more vulnerable here? If the disruptions last, say, for 3 weeks, could we see non-subsidized cylinder prices going up, say, within a month?
True. So, in fact, LPG is a more critical problem because it has a direct impact on daily basket of every individual. And as India has promoted more and more, gas-based fuel as a substitute for cooking, this will have an impact on India. And in fact, one of the major supplier is Qatar. So, if most of it comes through this route, it will have a deep impact. And LPG prices, by the way, going up, for a month or two, it can be absorbed. But I think right, nobody knows when this would stop, right? So right, for a sustained period of time, I think all these gas distribution companies will have a deep haircut on their margins, as well as even individuals may have an impact, which is why I think yesterday when you see in the stock market, stocks like Mahanagar Gas and right, others who are into this business, their stock really plummeted by more than 10%. So
Right.
there will be a much deeper impact on LPG, as you rightly pointed, because the supplier is concentrated in this region.
Right, absolutely, Dr. Bhatt. Like you pointed out, this is the most sensitive category for households. And also, if, just like you were pointing out, if LNG prices, that is supplies, LNG supplies from Qatar are hit, how soon do you think could CNG prices for, say, autos and taxis, they could go up?
So on a direct impact basis, I think, as I said, that prices may not change immediately in terms of at the ground level, as I said, because there is a huge amount of tax, close to 40% of tax, which is being levied at the ground level.
Right.
So the government may not allow this immediate shock to get passed on. But if this sustains for more than 3 to 4 weeks, then definitely you can see the prices at a ground level getting impacted.
Right.
From a supply side, I think the countries, including India, have had a strategy in the past of having a stockpile for at least 20 days, 30 days. In terms of
Correct.
crude, we have almost 79 days of crude, which is stored and available. So you may not see an immediate impact, but yes, if this continues for a long time, this may be a big challenge from a business perspective. Yes.
Dr. Bhatt, would it be right to say that 79 buffer that you were talking about, that is really going to be put to test this time around?
Yes, in fact, if but I mean, yes, it could be put to test. But then, if you know that we very recently switched from the supply from Russian oil to the oil that comes from the Middle East. So
Right.
for us, that option is still available. I'm not sure at the back channels what kind of talks must be going on, but
Right.
uh, for crude oil, there are options available, but for LPG, I think there are very few suppliers, so that you need to calibrate it, because even Europe depends on the gas that gets supplied. Because if you know, during the winter season, the household budget, basically the
Correct.
warming that happens, also happens on gas, and if they don't buy from Russia, they also tap into the same pool that India taps onto.
Right, right. Dr. Bhatt, just for a consumer, once and if CNG prices rise, would it be correct to say that India could be looking at higher auto fares, delivery costs, and maybe even food prices?
Yes, so in fact, there was a back of the envelope calculation which I was just trying to do in terms of seeing some reports of the economic survey and other reports that the government has come up with. It says that if you include all the direct and indirect impact in terms of logistic costs,
Right.
transport, airline, and other things, you would find that close to 8 to 15 basis point would be the impact for every dollar change in
Right.
price.
Right.
So if you're seeing currently almost $20 have already changed. So you can imagine you may see inflation going up in the near term. If the prices change at a ground level, then you will see the coming CPI numbers a bit higher by almost
Right.
50 to 100 basis point, which may push again interest rates higher. And
Right.
so this will have an impact on the GDP of the economy as well.
Right. So CPI numbers next time, they're likely to come in a little higher. But now let's also talk about petrol and diesel. Right now, Brent is at nearly $80 per barrel. At what level? 85, 90, 100, or 120 or 200 is what Trump, has been indicated earlier. Do you think Indian companies, oil companies, or OMCs, they would stop absorbing the cost and start raising prices?
So, according to, I think, the current calculation, there is close to, as I mentioned, 59% is the actual cost of whichever state you are in. 59% is the actual cost of the energy, and rest is all taxes. So you have excise, you have state VAT, and other taxes that
Right.
are being levied on it. So up to 40%. So you could say all the way up to $110. I think there won't be much impact in terms of real ground prices changing. But
Right.
if it goes beyond that and stays there for a longer time, I think during 2014, 2015 time period, we had seen the
Yeah.
crude oil prices reaching $150.
Yes.
$200 is yet a number which is to be touched, but then you never know. I mean, in these times, you can have such volatility that may happen. But the more important point is, does it sustain for a longer time? So if it stays there for 2-3 weeks, then you will see the impact happening across the world.
Right. I was just going to ask you about that only. If you see that $110 per barrel level staying for, say, 2 or 3 weeks, so then should India prepare for, a hike at the petrol pump?
Yes, so I think if this sustains for a longer time, more than I would say 3 weeks, then I think everyone is in for a surprise. Not only India, but I think globally, even European countries and even US. I remember that President Trump just changed the Fed governor because he wanted rates to go down. So if energy prices go up, very difficult for a new Fed chairman also to reduce the interest rate. So globally, everyone would be impacted if this sustains for more than 3 to 4 weeks, and you will see a ground level change in prices. But I think everyone is waiting and watching in terms of how long does it get prolonged. So again, there's no timeline to such wars, but you've seen in the previous two times where the Russian war started, and it's almost now the fourth year. So these wars, when they start, you never know what time they end. But I think this time around, everyone would pray rather that this ends sooner than later, because otherwise it may have an impact globally on the prices of energy. And energy is one thing which may impact almost, which may spoil the party across the world, not only in India.
Right, right. A very closely related sector with the energy space is the aviation sector as well. Now, if crude prices, they continue to rise sharply, aviation turbine fuel or ATF, that also becomes more expensive. How soon do you think could higher crude translate into higher domestic and international airfares?
Right. So, in fact, crude oil prices close to 40 to 60% of the cost for airline company is the aviation turbine fuel. So, if crude oil prices changes, it will have an immediate impact on airline companies' profitability. But more than I think fuel, I think there is a disruption that has happened in the global mobility as well, because as you have seen in last 1 or 2 decades, you have these big carriers in Middle East who control close to 30 to 40% of global movement of air travel. And that itself got disrupted for 2 days. And though we have news now that most of the airline or airports have started their operations slowly for emergency and at a lower capacity as of now. But the disruption in the aviation itself is a bigger impact than the fuel cost that we talk about. But yes, definitely, the fuel cost will have an immediate impact because remember, at a retail level, the government may try to absorb or delay this. But at the retail level or at an airline level, I think the airlines would have to bear the brunt of it upfront, though most of them also go for hedging and other kind of instruments to protect themselves from these kind of volatility. But the immediate impact would be seen on these airline companies, more from the travel disruption in terms of route than from the turbine fuel or the airline fuel cost that we talk about.
Right, right. Dr. Bhatt, on the policy front, do you think the government has enough room to cut excise duty again if this lasts beyond, say, 3 or 4 weeks, or will price hikes be the way to go?
Yes, so in fact that is something which was done in the past. So I think that is one option that is available to make sure that the impact is not passed on at a ground level. Also, you need to know that there are also elections coming in, right? So there would be also this thing being kept in mind that there's no real impact seen at the ground level immediately, at least. As far as the government can do something to take the hit, I think they would absorb it. But if it stretches longer, as I said, then it may be difficult for the government to continue absorbing this cost. And it's a significant portion of revenue that the government gets from this. So for a shorter time period, if they have to forego this, I think they wouldn't hesitate to do that, because you don't want your economic activity to slow down. So that's a priority, I think. So yes, I do see that the government may intervene if the prices sustain for a longer time, but they also have a limited window, so they may not
Right.
just continue to do that for a long time.
All right, so the government may intervene, but there happens to be a limited window for now, is what we are looking at. But Dr. Bhatt, like you were also pointing out earlier, there's a lot of talk about India buying more Russian oil. So if the Strait of Hormuz disruption that continues, can India simply replace Gulf oil with Russian supplies, especially given Gulf oil takes just about 5 days to reach India, but Russian crude that can take anywhere between 25 to 45 days. So what happens over there?
So as of now, I think the last change that happened, India still buys 15% of oil from Russia. So and it has come down from 40%. So for this change to happen, it may not be a very big transition
Okay.
to switch back. But again, knowing the India's energy sovereignty and the decisions are made keeping in mind what is best for the country.
Right.
I'm not suggesting there's a need for doing that maybe immediately, but if this continues, this is an option which is available, as I said. So, knowing the current policy that the government has, there's always an option that is available. Not only for India, even for other countries, for even countries like Europe and others, because you need energy to run an economy, right? And if this gets prolonged for a longer time, you would have to find an alternative. And
Correct.
I mean, in that case, there may not be much choice left with many people.
Correct. Definitely the need to find an alternative. But Dr. Bhatt, just like you were highlighting earlier, just wanted to get some details. What about shipping costs and war risk insurance now? Even if crude prices don't spike dramatically, could higher freight costs still push up the retail prices?
Yes, so from a retail perspective, yes, in terms of the things that we import, so say pulses or certain food grain items that we import, you may see prices getting impacted in next 15 to 20 days if this continues, and not only because of the trade route disruption, but because of the insurance companies also becoming little more wary, because last time when something like this what had happened and the Red Sea was blocked, the route was extended and everyone had to come from the South Africa route, that is Cape of Hope channel, and that increases the cost again. Also, the insurance companies, as of now, there is no such news where they have changed any price of insurance. But the only thing that they have changed is removing the clause of war for reimbursement. But it has more impact on the crude oil carrier or the bulk carriers that we have. The containerized
Right.
freight may not get impacted immediately unless the route gets disrupted. So most of it comes from the Suez Canal and the Red Sea, and that route for now at least that hasn't got impacted. But if there is anything else which starts in that region as well, it may add to the freight cost, especially to things that we import. So supply chains may get disrupted if
Right.
this, as I said, prolongs for more than 3 to 4 weeks. So you may see, a change in even food prices at a ground level due to logistic costs.
Right. Dr. Bhatt, my last question, and the big question, with all of that you have highlighted, is India at a risk of actually running out of fuel, or is the real problem that prices could become much more expensive, especially given the uncertainty on when all of this is going to end?
Yeah, so I mean, I shouldn't be saying that India won't get affected, but I think India is one of the third largest, consumer of oil.
Right.
But from this context, if you see, I think a bigger loser from or a bigger impact on the economy would be
Right.
on China, because 40% of energy for China comes from Iranian oil. So for them, this would be a much bigger impact. And for India, I think there would be some impact, but it won't be in an immediate measure. I don't see a very big impact happening to India, because India already has close to 29 to 30
Right.
suppliers. So from an option perspective, India may not be stuck the way maybe our neighbors may, because
Right.
their energy reliance was too much on this particular region.
Right, right. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Bhatt, for joining us today and helping us understand how this whole situation is likely to pan out as far as oil prices in India are concerned. Thank you for joining us. So there you have it. The
Thank
immediate
you.
fear is not fuel scarcity, and so far it looks like the impact is going to be limited on India. Of course, it all depends on how long the war prolongs.